Today I'm going to attempt to paint a Necron warrior just like the front of the Necron 3rd edition codex to celebrate 35 years of 40k from Games Workshop. And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, today I'm going to try to paint this old Necron warrior just like the picture on the front of the 3rd edition Necron Codex. This picture is what's got me into the hobby. It's the picture that got me into Necrons. I just love this picture on the front of the Codex so much that when Games Workshop released a post on their community page saying we are celebrating 35 years of 40k, how about you paint something to celebrate it? And I got inspired, and today we are going to paint this guy up. However, before that we're going to prepare him, because I was thinking I was going to put him on a bigger base. So I found a 32mm base and I just cleaned it up, and then I got the miniature itself and I cut the little metal piece off at the bottom. That metal piece is supposed to go into a slot on a smaller base, but I decided to cut it off. Now, because of the way that the feet are sort of positioned, I felt that I couldn't glue this guy directly onto the base and get a really good strong bond. So I found my little bag of stones and I selected one which would suit his foot, so I could get his foot on the stone, 1 foot flat on the base, get a nice support. I mean, Games Workshop love hero poses anyway with 1 foot on something, so I thought this would work quite well. I also added a second stone just to give the base a bit more detail. So once that was all dried, I had another look at the front of the codex. There's quite a few warriors in the picture, but also there's quite a few scarabs as well. Now, I remembered I had a scarab in my bits box. It is made of green stuff. I made it from a mould maker which I made many years ago when I wanted loads of scarab bases. I had one left and I thought this would be perfect on the base of this guy. So I was ready to paint. I sprayed him black, and then I had a closer look at the picture on the codex, because it's quite deceiving, this picture. It almost looks like the Necron warrior is black, but it isn't. It is actually metal, but it's quite dark. I'm assuming that the picture is at night time, so you can't really see much of the metal work. And I'm actually painting the scarab separately to the base. I want to glue him on top of the basing material at the end, so that it doesn't look like he's sort of buried in the sand. So I knew I had to paint a dark metal, so I started off with lead belcher, and I decided to dry brush this on rather than actually paint it fully, just so that I get some more depth to the miniature. I do quite a lot of dry brushing with my normal Necron painting anyway. I actually did 2 coats with this colour. I just built up the colour very gently because I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to come out compared to the picture on the codex, but I was thinking if I paint it with this colour and then give it a good wash with Nuln Oil to sort of darken it all down, it would work pretty well. So that was my thought process. So I just gently dry brushed this over 2 coats until I got a metal look that I was happy with. Now, going back to the codex, and actually I didn't really realise this, but when you look closely there's quite a few extra details on this miniature, in particular on the shoulder pads and also down the head, where it's actually got a blue and gold pattern. So I was thinking if I paint this on first before I do that wash of the black Nuln Oil, then that will be there, but it will still be quite subtle. I didn't want a really bright sort of blue and gold. So I got the Cantor blue and I painted the little edges of his shoulder pads. Now obviously this Necron warrior is a bit different from the actual Necron warrior on the codex. The warrior on the codex is more like the plastic ones that came out at the time, the one with the green rods in. However, when you look at the head is down quite a bit down the body, so it also looks like the old miniature. It is only artwork after all. So I decided to paint the raised sections around the shoulders with this blue colour, and then just freehand a stripe down the top of the head. I then got some Retribution Armour Gold onto my wet palette, and I got my 000 paintbrush out. To paint this very small detail, to be honest with you, I can't really do it on camera very well because I need my magnifying glass. I have a glass with a ring light around it, and it just changes the exposure and it's hard to record while I'm painting. However, I thought I would record some footage of me painting under this magnifying glass because I've not done it before, so I thought I'd experiment, see how it came out. So I edge highlighted around the edges of the shoulder pad where I'd painted the blue, and then I did a very small stripe on either side of that blue stripe on the head. On the Codex picture, the gold stripe actually goes down under the eyes, so I also painted those gold stripes underneath the eyes on this miniature as well. So that's how it looked after those 2 steps. I was pretty happy with it. So I was ready for the wash. I got the Nuln oil out and I gave it a good wash all over. Pretty heavy, but also making sure that it didn't pool too much in the recesses. Once that was done, I let it fully dry, and then I went back to the piece and I felt that the blue stripe down the middle just didn't match the Codex enough. I felt I needed the gold pattern. So I actually went in after it was dried and I painted in a little gold pattern with the gold paint, and then I re-washed over the top of that pattern with the black wash, and then that section was done. So once that was done, I put some green on my wet palette. I had Caliban green, I had Warpstone Glow green, and then I had Mute green. I painted the rocks first with the Caliban green. Once they were painted and dried, I then dry brushed them with the Warpstone Glow, and then I dry brushed them gently with the Mute green. Once that was dried, I then went in with Warpstone Glow and I painted the eyes. I also painted the barrel of the gun and also the pointy section on the front of the gun. And actually, when you look at the picture itself, you've got that sort of lightning effects coming out of the gun. And actually, this model with that pointy gun at the front, it's going to work really well to emulate the picture, whereas if I'd used the plastic warrior, I don't think I would have got this effect. I also painted the eye on the scarab swarm with this colour as well. Next, I used the Warpstone Glow to do the glowing effects. So I basically dry brushed around the gun barrel and all of the areas I thought the energy effects would actually be. I tried to emulate the picture on the Codex, but also looking at the model which I had as well, because of course it's slightly different. But I just dry brushed around the areas I thought this glow would be. So then it was on to Mute green. I painted the eye on the scarab swarm, and then I went in and I painted the eyes on the warrior. And then it was time to do the energy effects. Again, using my 000 brush, I painted a little jagged line going down the barrel, and I also painted some sort of lightning type lines going from the point of the gun downwards all around that sticky out section. The idea is to try to emulate that picture on the Codex with those energy effects all over the gun. Once I'd painted that, I went back to the dry brush and I continued to dry brush these glow effects, trying to leave the original colour in place so that I got quite a good sort of transition from this light green to the dark green. I went all over those green glow effect areas, and I also painted the scarab swarm's eye like this as well with the glow effects. Now, to be fair, I thought I'd finished here, but when I had another look at the picture on the Codex where it's art, of course there's a lot more detail to this. Actually, there's quite a lot of highlights everywhere. There's highlights on the face, on the back of the shoulders. There it almost looks like it's backlit. So I thought I would paint some highlights on the miniature. So I used the original silver colour, the lead belcher, that's the one. And then I just gently painted in some highlights where I thought they would be, imagining the light coming from behind. I turned the miniature around as well, and I painted some highlights on the back because otherwise it would have been just a dull sort of silver colour. There was no other colours on the back. So these actual highlights sort of helped make the miniature just generally look better. And then after I'd highlighted the metal, I found that the green wasn't highlighted enough. The dry brushing, of course, dulling down some of the work which I'd previously done with the lightning effects. So I got the mute green and I painted some highlights all on the energy effects. I then put some PVA glue on the base, put some sand on there, let it dry, painted it black, then I highlighted it with Dawnstone Grey, painted the rim of the base, and then glued on the Scarab Swarm. And here he is, all finished. I'm really happy how he came out. He doesn't look 100% like the picture in the Codex, of course he was never going to be, but he's close enough, and more importantly I had a lot of fun painting him. Now I'm actually going to be giving this model away to one of my lucky subscribers, along with a load of other awesome Necron stuff when I hit 25,000 subscribers. I'm nearly there, so if you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so. In the meantime, let me know what you think of this miniature. Did I do a good job? And if you want to see some of my other Necron painting tutorials, here's a playlist for you to check out.